You are entering a safe space. Please take a moment to center yourself and allow every thought, worry, and care to fall away right now. Focus on taking deep breaths and allow yourself to feel the healing freedom that is waiting to be ignited within you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel Drawn, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. I am your host, Isabel Drawn, and this is your healing space, your health and wellness podcast. As always, it's such an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us here at the Loud Whisper, the healing space, where we teach, inspire, and empower people to really become their best selves, to become who they were created to be through healing, through different strategies, and being able to bring people on here to help you throughout your journey. I'm a firm believer myself. I'm a student of life, and it doesn't matter how much I learn. I know that through this journey, I'll always be a student of life. And through this journey, my calling is for me to create the spaces for us to heal as human beings, for us to become who we were created to be. So again, thank you so much for being in this space with us today. With me, you could be listening to any podcast, but you decided to listen to the Loud Whisper podcast, and I appreciate you and honor you for that. Today is really a great day. As always, it's a great day for me, and I hope for you. But I'm really excited. I'm excited to share with you guys my guests. For some of you that know about me, I am, how can I put it? I'm a hack for wanting to know how us human beings function. I believe to my core that a lot of pain and suffering that we experience is because of what we've learned. And we actually have to do a lot of unlearning so we can get to the core of who we are consciously. So today, my guest we will dive into that. I'm excited to have this open, vulnerable conversation that I'm hoping will shift something within you today that will say, today is the day that I'll start my healing journey, or today is the day that I'll make a change in my life. So I first want to welcome you to the Loud Whisper podcast. Again, this is your healing space. And we want to welcome Dr. Dean Graves. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Graves.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's such an honor to have you in this space. So I'll read your bio and we're going to jump right in and have this conversation. So here we go, guys.
That's
we have
great.
an amazing person today with us. Please take advantage of this. Make sure I'll have all this information in case you guys need to reach out or whatever you need. This is your space. This is your healing space. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Dean Graves. Dean Graves is an experienced and authoritative spiritual teacher, author, podcaster with over 25 years of experience in meditation and mindfulness instruction. He has conducted numerous workshops and group sections on self-healing and personal growth, guiding many individuals on their journey towards greater self-awareness and enlightenment. Mr. Graves is interested in spirituality, self-improvement, which has led him to produce internationally successfully spiritually podcasts and series on YouTube videos of some of his live presentation. His podcast has helped many individuals connect with their inner selves, find inner peace, and learn practical techniques to overcome mental and emotional problems. You see why I'm excited to have him on my show, because he speaks my language and this is my tribe. I'm claiming him. He's my tribe. In addition to his podcast, he has written 4 amazing self-healing and personal development books that are treasure trove of insight and practical techniques that help individuals unlock their full potential and achieve greater success in all areas of their lives. His body of work includes 2 podcasts dedicated to didactic information on human experience, with the focus on providing people with a blueprint. Don't we all need a blueprint? A blueprint for healing from stress and suffering and advancing. Dean's deep commitment to personal growth and enlightenment has led him to spend the last 15 years as a devoted student of sixth density creator being entity. He has provided most of the content for Dean's latest manuscript, which promises to be a groundbreaking exploration of nature, of the universe and the human experience. His most significant credential for authoritatively writing this book is he has been provided with the information and understanding to share it with others. He is one of the most inspiring, insightful spiritual teachers of our time, and his work has helped countless individuals to transform their lives and achieve greater happiness and fulfillment. I could go on and on. This is amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I am truly honored to have you here. Truly honored to have you as a spiritual teacher to help us on this journey of becoming. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Isabel. That's very challenging. I hope I meet your expectations.
Of course, you're going to meet my expectations. You're going to surpass my expectations. So I'm going to jump right in, and yeah, let's have this conversation. Okay, so first I want to ask you this. I was looking at your work, which is so profound, and I love your core philosophy, the law of one, right? You describe the law of one as one irrefutable truth for someone hearing this for the first time. How would you distill what the law of one means for everyday human experience? What is the law of one, Dr. Grace?
The law of one is the one immutable law of creation. We perceive lots of concepts, lots of things to be true and absolute, but the reality is that all of those are distortions. They're distortions of our perception of how things really are. The purpose in that is that we are designed to perceive ourselves as conscious beings, and because we have that design, we uniquely explore ourselves. And in that exploration, we fulfill the purpose of creation.
Okay.
And the law of one very simply means that all and everything is the one creator. And so the mere fact that we perceive ourselves as separate from the creator is a reiteration of the first distortion that allowed creation to exist as it is.
Powerful. Powerful. Now your work spans trauma release, consciousness, and enlightenment, I would say. Tell me, what was the spiritual turning point for you in your life that led you to integrate these into one mission?
Well, they are one mission. It's not a matter of integration into it as one mission. We are all working on the same thing. We perceive that we have separate responsibilities, that we all have a separate purpose. The reality is that our purpose is exactly the same, and all of consciousness throughout creation is the same, because creation is founded on one purpose. And that purpose was the desire by the one infinite creator to know itself by experiencing itself. And so in order to begin the process of creation, if you understand that if you're all that there is, which the one infinite creator is, you have no perception of self, because you have nothing to interact with other than yourself.
Okay.
And so with the wisdom that the creator has available to it, it projected analog projection of self, which was a concept. The only distinction between the concept one infinite creator and the one infinite original one infinite creator is that the projected one infinite creator perceived itself as separate. That is the distortion, the first distortion that made consciousness, but made creation possible. And so
it's when we consider ourselves as separate. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And when does that normally, sorry to cut you off, when does that normally happen? Is it during our childhood that we are conditioned to think that we're separate, or?
Well, that concept that we are separate is free will. We perceive ourselves as having the choice of being able to turn right or to turn left or whatever the choice is.
Yeah.
But the only reason that we have that choice is because we perceive ourselves as autonomous beings and separate. You wouldn't have, if you were all one thing, if you were all that there is, you don't have a choice to turn right or turn left, because there's not a choice.
Yeah.
And so that was the founding principle, the founding distortion of creation. And this began with that first projection, analog projection of the creator of itself, created the first subject-object interaction. The one infinite creator original became at that point the creator as object, and the projected one infinite creator became the creator as the subject. And so by having something to interact with, it began to learn of itself by having something to interact with. The one infinite creator as the subject, having the same desire as the one infinite creator to know itself, began to develop and create creation as we experience it. And creation is much more vast than we can possibly comprehend. But it began to use free will to replicate the original action of the one infinite creator that began creation by using free will in degrees. In other words, the one infinite creator as the subject began consciousness, that is consciousness, and replicated that projection of itself in varying degrees of diminishing or actually increasing free will intoxication. And free will works just like whiskey. The more intoxicated you are with the perception of separation, the more foolish you act. And so the whole process of creation is to send consciousness as far away from unification with the one infinite creator as possible, and then allowing it and guiding it to evolve back to the realization and the experience of itself being the one infinite creator. And so we are very low on the consciousness scale. We perceive ourselves very significantly as separated from the one infinite creator. And the enlightenment process, which is synonymous with the evolution of consciousness, is the process of surrendering our perception of separation, which is sobering from our free will intoxication.
Yeah,
And
especially in the world that we live in right now.
It is, but all that we experience is within the parameters, if you think of us as a video game, and there are specific parameters to the video game, and as an actor in the video game, we can do anything that has been pre-programmed into the parameters of the video game. And so we can do all sorts of things, anything that we choose to do within the parameters that have been established for us by the video game. And there are an infinite number of different video games experiencing creation at the same range of consciousness that we have, that we're sharing. And so cumulatively, all of this is the one infinite creator experiencing itself as we go through our life.
Relationship, what is the relationship between spiritual awakening and trauma healing? Let's talk about trauma a little bit. Let me back up a little bit. First of all, let's talk about trauma and PTSD. These are deep wounds. How does somebody rewire their nervous system to open up to the higher consciousness? How does someone rewire their nervous system? What is trauma? Let's start there. What is trauma?
Okay, well, let me preface that a little bit, and I am leading up to answer your question.
Okay.
Part of the design that we function under, we operate under an archetypical mind, which is a blueprint. You were talking about blueprints earlier. The archetypical mind is very simply a blueprint for how we process thought. And we all function, everyone on Earth and everyone in our perceived galaxy functions under this same blueprint. At the range of consciousness that we share, the blueprint is very restrictive in that it is highly improbable that we're going to transcend the limits of that are defined by the blueprint of the archetypical mind. But as we evolve through the different layers of consciousness within our galaxy, then it has significantly less sway at each level. So at our level, it's very intense, and it defines that we will begin essentially in primordial darkness, which simply means that we don't know anything. We're just a clean canvas. We can paint anything on that canvas that we want. And this is our metaphysical self that begins this process. It's not our physical incarnation self that we're exchanging this conversation with. Our metaphysical self is our enduring self. It doesn't die. It learns. It is cumulatively what we have learned through our various incarnations. And so we begin in primordial darkness, and we begin to create a consciousness pattern, which is accrual of all of the learning and all of the experience that we've had of all of our different incarnations. And it is through the incarnations that we experience the intensity that we do of the perception in order to provide the experimenter with as empirical, as is clean, an opportunity to explore ourselves as is possible. And that result, the fruit of that incarnation, is what is accrued to our consciousness pattern. Because we are functioning under this archetypical mind, one of the characteristics that is essential is that we are designed to create an identity, which is, you can call it an ego, you can call it hierophant. It's all the same thing. There's no distinction. And we create one based upon where we are when we begin our incarnation. That is a spiritual platform that we begin to evolve from. And then we create this identity by having experience. We're motivated to get more. All of consciousness is motivated to get more of what we like is obviously different from person to person. But that is our motivation. So we create this identity for the sole purpose of getting more of what we like. We have experiences, we perceive an experience to last some period of time, say 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. But that is actually comprised of dozens of thoughts. Each individual thought that we process in and of itself is a complete experience, because we are obligated to make a decision about that thought before we can go to the next thought. That decision we have to make is whether this thought feels good and I like it and want more of it, or it doesn't feel good and I don't like it. I don't want more of it. That decision is a complete emotion. There is no emotion other than our decision that based purely on how it feels as we are at the time that we enjoy the experience, whether it feels good or doesn't feel good. And so when we have an experience that is stressful, and what distinguishes the traumatic experience from one that is stressful is that for one or more of the thoughts that we process as part of that perceived experience are so challenging to the authenticity of our identity. Our identity is who we think we are, that we're unable to make that decision. We can't make that decision that yes, it feels good, or no, it doesn't feel good, and or I don't like it, or I do like it. And that one thought will remain unadjudicated until we go back to that one thought and finish that decision. So if we're say, for example, the example that I use, I do a lot of work with veterans. You've got two soldiers in a foxhole, and they're experiencing exactly the same firefight.
Yeah.
The bombs are floating around both of them. One of them walks away from that with a traumatic experience. The other one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the distinction is the condition of being they are in at the time that they enjoy that experience. So if one of them,
okay.
yeah, so if one of them is more diminished than the other one, it is highly probable that their energy system is not going to be adequate in order to make that decision for one or more thoughts that they're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the healing of the trauma is someone to guide the trauma sufferer back to those experiences. They don't have to relive it. They do have to find the moment or the moments that have been unadjudicated in their
self-awareness.
And but by simply focusing their awareness, and awareness is the healing tool and the discovery tool. Mm-hmm. So the awareness discovers that moment is the moment that they need to heal. And you know that. I just asked them. I've never had anybody say, "Oh, I don't know what it is." Say, "No, I know what it is." And through their experience, they find the moments just one right after the other. And usually they're in sequential order. So I have them rank them from 1 to 10, 10 being the strongest. They'll go to the 10, they'll go to the next one, they'll go to the 8, and then they'll go to the 3, and then it's gone. Then the whole traumatic experience is cleared because they've been able to make that adjudicated decision of whether that moment felt good or didn't feel good. It doesn't matter whether it felt good or didn't feel good. Just their decision removes that obstruction to the flow of their experience for their entire life.
What happens, for instance, if the trauma, so you talked about veterans, right? So they're old enough to realize that, okay, this is a trauma that I'm experiencing. So what happens to people who have experienced a lot of trauma through childhood, where you cannot remember, maybe recollect exactly what happened to you, but you know that there's some form of suffering or some form of traumatic experience, which eventually...
No, they remember.
They remember. I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, we I have an exercise. With children and particularly with teenagers, there's a lot of resistance in order to going back through that experience.
Yeah.
And so you treat resistance as if it were an emotion. And so you reduce incrementally, you reduce their resistance to going back to that. And it's usually just fear. And that's the post-traumatic part of it, that they develop these resistance to even acknowledging that experience happened. Yeah. So incrementally, you have to break down that resistance. But they go back. I have people all the time, they go back and remember their birth.
Because that memory is in there. So when someone says, for instance, I'm still talking about trauma here because it's a big, right now everyone is talking about trauma, and really I'm really passionate about helping people move through their trauma into a higher state of consciousness, right? So when someone is saying, I'm too broken, I'm too wounded, I can't awaken, what invitation do you extend to help this person step into the possibility of knowing that they can not necessarily just overcome it? I don't believe in overcoming. I believe in going through what you've been through to be able to really become their best self.
Well, the healing process is the enlightenment process, and it's
Yeah.
exactly the same for everyone.
Okay.
We have a multitude of experiences, and every experience that we have is a message to us about ourselves. Every
Okay.
single one.
Okay.
Those that we like, means that those experiences and our interpretation of them reinforces this false identity that we've created.
Oh.
And
Oh.
those that we don't like are a challenge to the authenticity of the identity that we've created.
And those that we don't like are the ones that will actually bring us closer to the authenticity of who we truly are, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, because they're all predicated. This identity is nothing more than a bundle of beliefs that you've either gotten by osmosis, you've gotten it from parents, friends, family, whatever, or from life experiences, and just a belief. Belief, again, we're all motivated to get more of what we like. And
Yeah.
so, based upon our experiences, we've learned that if I behave in this way, if I do these things, if I follow these beliefs that I've incorporated in my identity, my expectation is I'm going to get more of what I like.
Mm.
If it doesn't, then that's a challenge to the authenticity of my identity. And that is scary to me because the identity is who I think I am.
Yeah. 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 And why do people run away from authenticity? Why is it as human beings we run away from truth?
Because it's our perception of self that we're defending and protecting. And it's that perception of self that is erroneous.
It's that story, that idea, that story that we've told ourselves. Our identity needs to be a certain way, according maybe based on our environment. And we've made up this story and created this story, especially with the ego being the front
It is.
runner.
It is.
Yeah, the
Yeah, it
ego
is.
is the front runner. So we create this identity, create this story, and want to live our life a certain way when everything that we're running away from, that is what our authenticity is. That is our truth. And as human
Right.
beings, we tend to run away from that. Society tends to run away from that because my belief is that we've been conditioned that we should always cover up the truth. You'd never want to show the truth. And a lot of people feel like once you show your truth, it's kind of being weak. And for me, I feel like vulnerability really, as Brene Brown says, that's your strength. That's your true identity. That's who you are.
It's your authentic self.
Yeah.
The more that
Yeah.
we can expose, the more everything that we don't like is stressed. Stress is a spectrum from very minor, say you ran out of cream to put in your coffee in the morning. That's still stress. It's something you don't like. The
Mm-hmm.
other extreme of that, the other end of the spectrum, is those traumatic experiences that are so challenging to our identity that we can't process at the time. And everything in between that we don't like at the time is stress. Bliss is perfect happiness. And understand that we're motivated to get more happy.
Yeah.
To get happiness. It's not something that we can get. It's not something that we can give. It's something that we are. So the bliss is the absence of stress. And so as we heal, as we reduce our experience of stress by healing our false perceptions of self, then we're surrendering those magnets that attract the experiences that we don't like, and we get happier. Happiness fills the void that we create by surrendering these false perceptions of self.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were talking about as we heal, we're talking a lot about healing right now in the world. And healing is not an easy feat. It's not something that I always say that there's no human being that wants to experience pain. There's no human being that wants to be uncomfortable. But the reason why people don't heal is because, as you mentioned earlier, you don't have to relieve the past, but you have to go, I say you have to go through what you've been through. So in order for you to heal, the self-awareness comes in, right? Self-realization.
Sure.
This is where I'm at. This is what's happening in my life. This is my reality. This is my truth. Now, how do I move forward from here? That's where the work starts. But it is a lot of work. And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from it. The fear the fear of not wanting to experience that trauma, the PTSD, the deep wounds that they have experienced. So they would rather, you know what, let me mask this, let me cover this up, let me keep going. And I find this with my clients. It doesn't matter how much money someone makes, if they have not taken the time to heal, especially their childhood wound, it shows up in all areas of their lives, one way, shape, or form. It shows up in every aspect of their lives, one way, shape, or form. I was listening to Dr. Garber. I don't know if you know him, if I pronounce his name right. And he was talking about how he's a psychologist, and he was talking about how at his age of 72, he came from doing a talk, and his wife was supposed to pick him up from the airport. Now, remind you, this is what he teaches, but his wife couldn't make it to the airport. He said he started throwing a tantrum that took him back to years back in the Holocaust when his mom had to leave him to protect him. At 72 years old, the little boy inside of him still showed up at that moment because abandonment showed up. He experienced abandonment. So even at the age of 72, he was still reacting, getting triggered by that feeling or even the notion that, oh my God, I'm being abandoned at this moment. This is not right.
Well, that awareness is what healed it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you become aware that, well, that's stupid. Why never I kept this all these years?
Yeah.
It continues to cause me stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. The enlightenment process is a two-step process. All of the experiences that we've had that we don't like, that we did not learn the lesson that was brought to us at the time that we had the experience, we get to keep that, and we keep that in the form of emotional baggage.
Okay.
And those are all of the hurts that we feel when we go through our life experiences. And that's an excellent example of an emotional baggage item that he had kept all of these years and just suppressed. We've got to heal the emotional baggage because in that are the lessons that have been brought to us through our life experiences.
Yeah.
And if you understand that this is like if before you were born, somebody told you that your purpose in life was to run down to the end of the street, and we're going to give you a new pair of running shoes and a new running outfit, and you're just going to run down to the end of the street and have a successful life. And then as soon as you're born and you start to run, somebody walks up and gives you a 300-pound ball of concrete and tells you your mission is the same. You still got to run down to the end of the street, but now you've got to carry this 300-pound ball of concrete.
It changes everything.
Well, you're thinking, well, it changes everything because then you're thinking, I mean, all the energy that I had to run down to the end of the street is now being diverted to carrying this 300-pound ball of concrete. In this 300-pound ball of concrete are all the life lessons that you didn't learn. And so it's perfectly permissible to set it all down at one time, but highly improbable because it's part of your perception of self. And so you have to take these chunks of concrete out one piece at a time.
Yeah.
Every time you remove a piece of concrete, it gets lighter, so you have more energy to run. And so you have to heal this emotional baggage, which it is possible to heal every bit of it.
Yeah.
And you feel so dramatically lighter. And then you have the energy and the awareness to become aware of the beliefs that you've incorporated into this false identity and begin to let those go. And they're not mutually exclusive. As you gain more energy, then you become aware of the beliefs and you simultaneously heal both at the same time. But that is the evolutionary process that is also the enlightenment process. The enlightenment process is nothing more than exposing the authentic you to its maximum degree. And the authentic self is always there and it's always the same. That is the oneness.
It's the one we suppress. Just
Well,
Yeah.
because we're afraid. We perceive the identity that we created is who we are.
Yeah.
And so if we're not who we are, who the hell are we? And so it's very scary to begin that process and realize that, this is not me. This is not me, because you don't know who you are
Yeah.
until you get there. But
Yeah.
now the interesting thing about it, our perceptions about ourselves are so wrong. We perceive that we can love other people and that other people can love us.
Hmm.
Love is not an emotion.
No.
It is not a commodity that we can give or withhold. It is a condition
Action.
of being that we are in,
Yeah.
which means that every time in your life that you have felt love, it is not because you were getting anything from anyone other than permission to temporarily surrender this false perception of self, this identity that you created, and you were allowing yourself to feel your authentic self.
Now, most people will say to you, so I'll give myself as an example. Okay. Originally from Africa, right? I come from a certain culture, went through my own traumatic experience, still on my healing journey. But for so many years, I was afraid to speak it out. I was afraid
Mm-hmm.
to name it. I didn't know what
Well,
was
sure.
I didn't even identify that I needed to find my identity. I needed to figure out who I was. And, for most people, including myself, when you decide to go on that journey, it gets really scary because then you start speaking truth. We spoke about truth earlier, and a lot of people hide from truth. Then you're limiting beliefs. You know how my limiting beliefs held me from even starting on my healing journey? Because what will they
Sure.
think? What will their family think? They'll say, has she lost her mind? This is taboo. You don't talk about what happened to you, whether it was physically, mentally, spiritually, or sexually. You don't talk about all these things. We need to keep them in. So when I started on my journey, it's been a very lonely experience, to be honest with you. As much as people celebrate the fact that I speak my truth, at the same time, a lot of people ran from me because that's taboo. What are you talking about? You're supposed to keep that inside. I'm supposed to function with my limiting beliefs. And I'm honestly being vulnerable with you right now, telling you, I feel that I would have honestly started on my journey earlier if I was not focused on the beliefs that I had, and also what would other people think.
Mm-hmm.
Shame kept
Well,
me stuck.
what is guilt?
Guilt kept
What
me
is guilt?
stuck.
Guilt is when we have a belief in our identity,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we either do something that contradicts our belief, or
Mm-hmm.
we don't do something that we think we should do. Either way, because it challenges the authenticity of our identity. And we feel guilty about that. And guilt is nothing more than the fear if someone else finds out what I did or didn't do, then I'm not going to get more of what I like.
Yeah. Or they're not going to love me anymore, or they
Well, that's
will.
it. I mean, what is
Yeah.
love? I mean, that's
Yeah.
exactly. I'm no longer going to get the love that I need
Yeah.
if they know what I did.
Yeah.
And so shame is nothing more. If you think of guilt as you've hit yourself in the head with a two before one time and it
Yeah.
hurt. Shame is when you keep bopping yourself in the head with the same two before over and over and over. It's all a message about what belief you need to surrender in this identity that you put there, agreed to put there, that is perpetuating your experience of unhappiness.
Yeah.
We are magnetic. We perceive that we create thoughts. We do not create thoughts. We do not have that capacity yet. We are
Okay.
magnetic and we attract thoughts. And because we are magnetic, and the only thing we can change is ourselves, when we heal ourselves, when then we cease to attract those experiences that perpetuate our stress and suffering.
Sure. Sure.
And we also
Interesting.
attract people that have achieved the same degree of awareness that we have.
Yeah.
And there's that reciprocity that we share in that identification. We know them. We feel comfortable with them.
Same degree of awareness or same degree of pain. Either or.
Well, it's awareness or the lack of it.
Or the lack of it, right? Or the lack of
Yeah.
it. So you attract those people with the same type of awareness, or if you have lack of awareness, you attract the same type of people. I just
That
want to
perpetuates your suffering.
Exactly. And you talked about shame and how you'd be surprised how many people live in a world where they're ashamed of their own identity, right?
Sure.
I said for the longest I used to say I'm ashamed. My name should be Isabel Drawn. I'm ashamed of who I am. That's how much shame was there. I can laugh about it now, but honestly, Doc,
that's a suffix that you put on your name.
yeah, I can laugh about it now, but honestly, shame was the center of my identity. I was so lost in my own trauma, in my own pain, in my own hurt, that shame was the center of my identity. So everything that I did for years before I started on my healing journey was outside of myself. My job was to make sure I showed up a certain way for several reasons. So people wouldn't know my truth, what I've been through. I was afraid that people would abandon me if they knew what I've been through because I experienced abandonment from a little child. I was afraid that people wouldn't love me if they knew what I'd been through. So all these things kept me under the umbrella of shame. And I shrank myself so small that I felt like I was drowning. Right? I shrunk myself so small that I felt like I was drowning. And once I started getting the self-awareness, self-realization, and being truthful to myself and saying, look, these things, they happened to you. You didn't create them, right? You're here for a reason. Once I started going through that journey and honestly just excavating all the stuff and removing the layers of shame, that's when my healing process started. And I'm still on that journey. I tell people, as much as I teach it to other people, I'm a student of life. Till the day I die, I will continue to learn to become a better human being, to heal my own wounds, and to help others do the same. But shame was the center of my life. And let me tell you, if somebody's listening to this right now and you're ashamed of anything that has happened to you, set yourself free. It kept me stuck and trapped for many years, many, many, many years.
Well, I use the analogy, say that you've decided that chocolate ice cream is your favorite flavor of ice cream.
Yeah.
And there are 150 flavors in the ice cream store. But when you go to the ice cream store, you're going over to the chocolate, and you're going to stand in front of the chocolate until you get your chocolate ice cream.
Sure.
How did you come to that conclusion? You had to taste all these other flavors of ice cream.
Yes.
And certainly you're a sentient being, so you don't have to taste them all, but you have to go through the process of eliminating the pistachio and the birthday cake and the sherbet. Yeah. And so we are designed, the purpose of this identity is we will experience a lot of what we don't like so that we know what we do like when we encounter it, when we experience it. We learn by analogy. We learn by comparison and contrast.
Okay.
All of consciousness learns by comparison and contrast, this analogy process. And so if we don't experience what we don't like, we won't know what we do like because we have nothing to compare it to. So someone who has defined a very difficult life, okay, they've had just one difficult experience after the other. That's by design. They chose that because before their incarnation, we choose the life that we are living because we understand that the probability of the experiences that we will have will provide us with the greatest opportunity to evolve.
Okay.
And so we have incarnated, the average human is incarnated over 3,000 times, some as many as 8,000 times. We've been, at this point, we've been male, we've been female, we've been rich, we've been poor, we've been good, we've been bad, whatever. We've had all of those possibilities. And we have accumulated the fruit of our learning into this metaphysical self. And that is what is evolving. That is the aspect of us that is evolving. Before we are born, we are our consciousness pattern in the metaphysical world. After we die, we simply reintegrate with that portion of us. And it goes on and on and on. And that is that part of us that perpetually surrenders our perception of separation in increments until we eventually integrate into unity and eventually into reunification with the one infinite creator. What you and I are experiencing right now, we chose because the probability of the experiences that we would have with the body type and the gender and the family and all of that, all of the things that have contributed to who we are, would most probably give us the opportunity for the experiences that we need to have in order to become aware and evolve our metaphysical self.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. I could talk to you forever. Makes perfect sense. I'm definitely going to ask you to come back. But before we end this call, I do have about 2 to 3 short questions for you. And
Okay.
so the first thing that I want to ask, many spiritual teachings right now, I feel like they remain abstract. Okay. And if someone is looking to create daily practices, what do you recommend someone does to start the healing process and aligning with the higher consciousness? Because we hear a lot of spiritual practices, and some of them I feel like they just remain abstract yet. So, how can someone really go deep and say, I need to start on this journey, maybe even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes for all I care. But how do you recommend that someone begins that alignment with higher consciousness?
Well, understand that higher consciousness is you.
Okay.
Just they describe it as it's just you in the future, so it's not a separate entity. It is you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the process of healing before we while we're in the midst of this process of living life, we are essentially in chaos because we're trying to reinforce this false identity that we've created. In order to do that, my awareness has to be pointed outside of me. I have to be aware of you and your reactions to my behavior
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm.
order to modify my behavior to try to trick you to giving me more of what I like.
Okay.
Okay. So when we have an awakening, which is nothing more than that point in your life where you realize all the stuff that I've been doing may be making me successful, but it's not making me happier.
Okay.
What happens at that point, what you were doing is you were assuming responsibility for your healing. And it is incumbent upon you to learn to invert that awareness from outside of you inside. And you begin to become aware of the you that is always there that
Okay.
you have been ignoring. Okay. And so when you do that, then you begin to explore, and this Stoics philosophy, philosopher Stoics were tremendous about this, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the whole gist of their teachings,
Look what I
is
have.
I became aware.
My
Yeah,
daily
there you
stoic.
go. Yeah.
My daily
Well, that's what,
stoic.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and that's what they taught. And so you have to invert that awareness. Now, the most effective tool for anybody is meditation because it's exactly what you do in meditation. You learn, no, and my students, I tell them, nobody comes to meditation except the people that are running away from the stick. And the stick hurts. And so you're looking for relief from the stick. And so it's very difficult for everybody to begin meditation, and you begin however you can begin. I began with listening to guided meditation. And then you go through the phase of, okay, the guided meditations are a distraction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I can't do that anymore. So then you go through the bowls and the candles and all of that stuff. All of that becomes, those are just permission slips to allow you to get into that meditation phase. And I tell the students, if you're diligent with your meditation practice, then you will one day have what I call getting a bite of the apple. So up to that point, you're running away from the stick, and then you get a bite of the apple, and the apple is really good. And I had a guy that he said, I don't like apples, but I like lasagna. Okay, well, you got a bite of the
Out of
lasagna.
lasagna.
Whatever it is that you like, you got
Whatever,
a bite of
whatever works for you at this point.
whatever works. And then your motivation transforms from running away from the stick to getting more of what feels good. And what
Mm-hmm.
feels good is healing and being honest with yourself. And it is through that self-honesty that we begin to develop that intimacy with ourselves, which is what we all seek. In intimacy, the more honest that you are with yourself, and the deeper your intimacy goes. And that is when you are really rapidly surrendering this perception of self that you've created as your identity, and more of that authentic self emerges. And it can, it can all transpire dramatically in a year, which is very, very unusual. Or it may take the entire lifetime, but it is the process. And how you can measure how you're doing is how happier that you are, and are you reducing the stress and replacing that with happiness.
Makes total sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So, how does somebody maintain? So, once you start that journey, everything about life is maintenance, right? In everything that we do is about maintenance. How does someone, let me say, maintain their spiritual breakthroughs, right? Not just glimpses of it, but stabilize the expanded states in ordinary work, relationships, obligation. How does someone continue to maintain that once you start on that spiritual journey?
Well, by following Mahatma Gandhi's teachings, be the change you want to see in the
Be
world.
the change you want to see in the world. That's it. Be the change you want to see in the world. Last question for you.
Okay.
Somebody is listening to the podcast right now. They're listening to you and I go really deep and talk about all these things taboo that the world is now talking about, but most of us don't want to deal with it. So I'm in my room. I'm stuck. I'm going through a hell of a lot right now. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to start. I don't know how to get up. I'm in so much pain, but I know I want healing. Dr. Grace, where do I start if I'm listening to this podcast right now? Where do I start?
Well, when the student is ready, the teacher will
Teacher
appear.
appears.
Yeah, just be
You and
aware of
I in
those
sync.
around you. Your teacher is already around you. It's just for you
Yeah.
to become aware.
Okay. So you
Ask for
become
help.
aware. Ask for help.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, that's extremely powerful. Thank you so much, Doc. I really appreciate your time today. I'm definitely going to ask you to do another episode with me next month, if that's okay. Because I
Absolutely.
just,
I love doing this. This is my purpose in life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I found my tribe. You are my tribe, and I'm excited to actually. Excited. I mean, you don't realize how important it is to find your tribe in this world right now. And you are part of my tribe. I just love everything that you're doing, all the teachings, all the spiritual teachings. And I'm just in awe and excited to actually learn more from you and to be able to share with everyone else. So I honestly want to say thank you so much for taking this time and speaking with me and speaking to our audience. As I mentioned, I will be asking you to come back. And for those of you that are listening, I hope this served you. I hope this touched your soul, your spirit, one way, shape, or form. And no matter what you're going through, just understand that you're enough. You're enough the way that you are. It's not that you're broken. You don't need fixing. It's just self realization that you need, self awareness, really to discover who you are. Who are you to the core of your being? Not who you've been told to be, but who are you? And the thing about life is it's your job, it is your responsibility to be able to get to that space and understand your identity, as Dr. Graves talked about. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Loud Whisper Healing Space. As mentioned, this is your healing space, a space where we unpack, we find authenticity, we connect to ourselves, and we speak truth. As always, it's an honor for you to join us. So please subscribe, share with your friends, and please make sure that you join us again next week. And as far as Dr. Gray's information is concerned, I will have, when the podcast drops, I will put all of his links with the podcast on all social media. Please, if you need help, reach out. You don't only reach out to me. That's why I bring other people on this podcast, because some people resonate with me, some people won't. But then there you go. And that's what life is about. I don't get offended at all. Energy is energy. That's what life is about. Please feel free to reach out, and you deserve to find your true self. You deserve to find your identity. Again, thank you so much for listening to the Loud Whisper podcast. This is your healing space, and I'm your host, Isabel Dron. I'm always honored. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a conversation. I would also be honored if you would consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. As always, you can connect with me through the links in the description. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you could join us today and look forward to supporting you on your greatest journey. Have a great day.